What's going on, guys? Rick here, bringing you guys a brand new video for the first time in God knows how long. Today we're back on Destiny 2, and I'm going to be showing you my top builds for each subclass of the Hunter. Hunter is my main when it comes to anything Destiny. My builds are primarily done on Warlocks, but I am starting to find some really good builds for the Hunter for all different situations. Especially here in Shadowkeep with the new artifact and all the abilities, you can basically synergize together. Comes up with some really nasty stuff you can build. So let's go ahead and start off. My main PvE setup is going to be with the Night Stalker subclass, specifically Bottom Tree. In Shadowkeep, the Void subclasses are particularly good in PvE, and the Bottom Tree Night Stalker got a much needed buff. Basically what this does now is that you still have the Mobius Quiver, which basically allows you to fire multiple shadow shots. But not only did you get more shadow shots, but the way they've changed it is that the first shot itself is going to be like any other tether. It's going to tether your opponents, and it's going to lock them in that little thing that's going to give you more damage towards them, and you're also going to generate orbs. The thing they did to Mobius Quiver is now any enemies that are tethered, whether it be ads, majors, bosses, whatever it may be, if they are tethered and you hit them with another arrow, it's going to deal massive damage. So this Night Stalker class now not only provides a debuff and an orb generation support role, it also now is a viable DPS role. In the past, this very top tree was the main thing you'd want to use just because the thing called Deadfall, and what this does is when you shoot your single arrow into the ground, the void anchors reach out super far, and that's going to allow you to tether as many enemies as possible, and it was just the best thing in PvE. This thing was really underused, and I'm really glad Bungie gave it the buff it needed. Way of the Pathfinder is now my preferred method of using the Night Stalker. The way I have my class set up right now is basically the default meta build here in Shadowkeep. You're going to want to go with a Spike Grenade nade launcher. My choice is Swarm of the Raven. You can use Wendigo GL3, it's the Vanguard Pinnacle weapon, but it doesn't have as much of the damage potential as Swarm of the Raven. Specifically on this one I have Boss Spec just because grenade launchers are the best thing you can have for boss damage nowadays. Unfortunately, I did get a handling masterwork on this, but honestly, I'm not too upset because it does go with my quick draw perk. Obviously, I'm going to have spike grenades just for that big contact boss damage, and then also field prep. Not only is it going to increase my ammo reserves, but it also makes my reload a lot faster when I'm crouching, which synergizes well with the Titan's Rally Barricade, which doesn't, unfortunately, reload your weapons automatically anymore, but this perk does stack, so it does end up helping you in the long run. The Recluse is the obvious choice. It's pretty much the meta weapon right now in terms of ad clear, any SMG, any PvE build, even PvE. It's still just fucking disgusting. You're going to want to be using this weapon. This thing's going to get hit with a nerf here at the start of Season of the Dawn, but I still use it. I recommend if you do not have it yet, you go get it. The way you get this is through the Crucible quest for Shaxx. You can get to Fabled rank, which is 2100 glory. And the way they've changed the competitive playlist, you win matches, you earn like 200 elo, and if you lose matches, you lose like 4 elo. So basically you can go face roll in that playlist and get this gun. So if you don't have it right now, I recommend going to get it, because who knows how they're going to change that scoring in the future. Now, Izanagi's Burden is going to be the most grindy of all these weapons in this build, but it's definitely the biggest player, as it's probably the best boss damage weapon you can get in the game at the moment. Many LFG groups won't even let you start a raid without this weapon, which I think is absolutely stupid, but obviously it's the meta, so it's how people want to get done with things faster. The great thing about this thing is that it has honed edge on it, so you basically can stack all 4 bullets in your magazine into one bullet and just deal a massive damage with that one bullet. This was the Season of the Forge, the Black Armory's main weapon that they had for the Niobe Labs mystery. It was one of the exotics along with Le Monarch and Jotun. So this is definitely one you're going to want to grind for. With this setup, the reason I chose the Bottom Tree Night Stalker is because it has some very good synergy with your abilities. Vanish and Smoke for your melee ability, you throw a smoke bomb that makes yourself and your allies invisible. When you make your allies invisible, it gives you and them the heart of the pack. Not only does this increase how fast your weapons reload, it also increases how fast you run, how fast you recover, and how much damage you can take before you die again. Lockdown. Grenade effects last twice as long, allowing for strong territorial control and increased damage potential. The cool thing about this is that the Night Stalker has the perfect grenade that you can sit down on the ground at the feet of your enemies and just provide a massive amount of damage. That's going to be the Vortex Grenade. It just sits there and continuously damages your enemies, which also comes to my next perk, which is called Oppressive Darkness. This is one of the perks on the artifact. Basically, when you hit anything with a Void Grenade, it weakens enemies. It's very, very similar to the debuff that the Tractor Cannon used to give any of your bosses. It's just a very, very good thing to use for boss damage. And the reason these two perks synergize so well is because of combat provision. Damaging enemies with your grenades grants your melee ability energy, and then making allies invisible grants grenade energy. So you can kind of see where those things synergize. When you damage enemies with grenades, you're going to get that smoke bomb back. When you get that smoke bomb back, you can throw it back on the ground to you and your allies, and you can get your grenade back and forth, get that grenade, use that Oppressive Darkness, and give that buff to your teammates. So not only is this subclass going to be good for doing DPS, tethering enemies, generating orbs, it's also going to be good for granting buffs to your allies and doing big damage. And which also brings me to my exotic and my build. Orpheus Riggs is going to give you extra arrows in that Mobius quiver, which is going to allow you to do even more DPS and tether more enemies. And then for my stats, I'm also going to be running a Discipline and Strength split build. The reason I'm splitting it between Strength and Discipline is because it's kind of hard to reliably get all of your teammates into one spot if you're running around in an activity to give them all that heart of the pack buff, so you're less likely to get all of your grenade back when you do that. But even if you don't get all of your teammates in that buff, you're still going to have a decreased cooldown for your grenade, so you're going to be able to do those things back and forth more often. My next build is going to be for PvP primarily. You can also use Arc Strider in PvE, but I prefer not to do that. It's not the best setup for that. But I do use Arc Strider in PvP, using specifically the Way of the Wind. This is a very good subclass for sustainability, just massive, massive kill potential. What I'm doing here is I'm running a lot of Paragon mods, and I'm running Arc Battery as well. Basically what it'll do is whenever you use any of your Arc abilities, meaning your grenade or your dodge, which is very, very important for those Paragon mods, it's going to grant you an overshield, and it's going to reduce all the cooldowns of your abilities. Where this ties in is with this Wormhusk Crown. Whenever you dodge with this crown, it gives you a small health bump and a small shield bump. So whenever you dodge, it's actually considered one of your arc abilities. This Burning Souls perk that gives you more health and a shield bump will stack with that arc battery. So whenever you're dodging, you're basically unkillable, and you're going to regenerate your health instantly. It's instant. On top of that, the Arc Strider has focus breathing. Whenever you sprint, your dodge ability is going to come back even faster, and you're going to run faster. So you're going to be zooming around the map, getting your dodge back as soon as possible. The Disorienting Blow, it's not the best melee ability, but you know, it is usable. It will stun your enemies. They won't be able to look around. Their HUD's going to disappear. It's just overall helpful. Lightning Reflexes, whenever you're dodging, you're harder to kill. This just stacks on top of those other two perks that just kind of help you keep your health up whenever you're dodging. So basically, you're going to be almost the same this season to a One-Eyed Masked Titan pre-nerf. And then your bottom is going to be Combat Meditation. When you're critically wounded, melees and grenades charge drastically faster. This is always helpful because in a lot of gunfights, you'll be able to get away by dodging, and you'll get that melee ability and your grenade back a lot faster. For PvP, I like to use the Arc Bolt Grenade. You can lob this around corners, and basically it's going to do a big 360 and just get damage to any enemy that's around the corner. Say you took their shield down, couldn't get the kill, toss that grenade, boom, they're dead. Say there's a bunch of enemies in one room, you can toss it in there, boom, you got all their shields down, you and your team can run in there, wipe the whole team. Very helpful and competitive. For your class ability, I'm going to be using Marksman's Dodge. It reloads your weapons. This is actually very helpful in case you get into a situation with like a hand cannon, an LMG, anything that reloads kind of slow. I prefer to use this. That's just my personal choice though. You can also go Gambler's Dodge if you want that melee ability, but I don't find Disorienting Blow to be very useful. And then finally for your jump, I use Triple Jump. If you're a hunter and you're not using Triple Jump, I don't know what's wrong with you. Strafe and High Jump, they're just not useful. Here for weapons is basically your choice of what you want to use. I like the Recluse personally in PvP. Claws of the Wolf is actually a very good weapon as well. I'm more of a hand cannon pulse rifle guy, but I did get a good roll with high caliber rounds. Outlaw Kill Clip, I tend to use this in pretty much every activity. I usually have this put on for any loadout for PvP in general. For your primary, like I said, I'm more of a hand cannon guy. I have my Austringer. I don't have much of a god roll, but it does have Outlaw, and it's just an overall solid hand cannon. Alternatively, if you don't feel like playing the Menagerie to try to grind for this roll, you can always use the Rose hand cannon. It also has Outlaw, and it's just a solid 150 RPM hand cannon. Alternatively, if you do have the Ritual Weapon unlocked and you do like using scout rifles, you can use the Randy's Throwing Knife. Rapid Hit and Kill Clip just synergize so well, and this thing is just probably the only, actually no, it is the only 260 RPM scout rifle in the primary slot in the game. So if you do like scout rifles, I definitely recommend hitting the grind for that gun. If you're heavy, this is really up to you. I like to use the tractor cannon just to troll people, bump them off the edge, take them out of their super. It's just an all-around good thing to fuck with people. If you don't like to use this, you can pretty much use anything you want. Snipers are a viable option. Machine guns, especially Hammerhead. Hammerhead is probably the best PvE machine gun that there is. You can snipe people from across the map with this thing, and the damage with headshots, and even body shots for that matter, it's just insane. The amount of times I've grabbed heavy with this thing and taken people out of their supers, it's ridiculous. For the stat rolls here, they're not going to be as important. I like to have strength up more often just so I can hit people with that story-ending blow. Recovery is pretty important in Crucible. If you do 100% recovery build, it's kind of disgusting, but then again, it's really just up to you. But yeah, so I'm running Paragon mods on all these things just so I can have my my dodge up as much as possible. I like to have my dodge up in all combat situations in PvP. It's basically a really good oops button, so you can just press your class ability and boom, all your health is back. It's pretty disgusting. The last build we got going on is with the Gunslinger class. Now, I usually tend to use this more in PvE than PvP. If I'm going to use this in PvP, I'd probably use a 6-shooter in the Way of the Outlaw, but for this, it's going to be mostly PvE, so we're going to be using the Way of 1,000 Cuts. The way this build works is you want to have Paragon mods on all or most of your pieces of armor. The only reason I have a Discipline mod on this one is because it was the primary stat on this armor roll, and I want to take advantage of that as much as possible. The reason you want Paragon mods is because we're going to be combining this with the 6th Coyote. Basically what this does is it gives you that second dodge, and the cool thing about this is it synergizes with that middle tree Gunslinger very, very well. You're going to have the Blade Barrage, which is just an disgustingly overpowered super for ad clear, boss damage, name it, it's good. The cool thing about Knife Trick is that this could be your melee ability. You're going to throw the knives out. It's going to add a burn effect to your enemy. And the cool thing about this is whenever you burn enemies or apply a burn to them, you're actually going to get your dodge ability back faster. And the cool thing about your dodge ability coming back faster is that with the Gambler's Dodge, whenever you dodge near enemies, it fully recharges your melee ability, so you have another knife to throw. And then you can just chain this. I like to do grenade, knife, dodge, dodge, knife. And if you do this on multiple ads, a boss, what have you, basically you're going to have your super back up nearly instantly, because this basically is just going to be a huge energy and regen generator, I guess you could put it. And you'll have your super up nearly constantly, so you could just be dishing out all the damage. In terms of PvE, weapon setup, you basically can do whatever you want. I like the Nade Launcher Recluse Izanagi setup, but it's personally up to you. So guys, I did actually come into the moon. I forgot to mention that you do want to put on 2 distribution mods onto your class item. Basically, this just allows your abilities to cool down more when you actually use the class ability. So my super is about halfway up, and we're just going to go ahead and show you the rotations here. Main rotation you want to do is throw your nade for a burn. You want to throw your knives, dodge, throw your knives, dodge, and you basically just rinse and repeat until you get your super. We're going to go ahead and apply a burn. Going to throw a knife at this guy. We're going to dodge near him. Knife, dodge, knife, dodge, knife, dodge, grenade, knife, dodge. Look at that. Super's already back. Thank you guys for watching. I don't really upload videos anymore. I just thought I'd upload this just to kind of share my builds with you, what I like to do in the PvE meta, while Season of the Undying is still here. Season of the Dawn is coming up soon. The meta will change because the artifact is going to change. Not all those perks are going to be the same, so basically the meta and the builds are constantly going to be evolving. So we'll just have to wait until next season to see what comes out. Thanks for guys for watching. See you next time.